Hello everyone, you're listening to Lipstick and Leather, and with me right now in Winnipeg is Trevor from Jet Set Satellite. How's your day going, Trevor?
Very well, thanks.
Awesome. All right, now how did you become a creative copywriter?
Once I left the band, or I didn't leave the band, once the band kind of was done, it had run its course, I guess, I was trying to figure out where I fit in. I didn't really have a career plan beyond being in a band, and so but I was one of the main songwriters, and writing was always something that would have been a part of my life. And so I ended up in a roundabout way, I ended up going back to school to take a course in creative copywriting, which was actually sort of a return to the beginning, because the original record deal that I signed with Network was something that came out of me being in a copywriting course here at Red River College in Winnipeg. So it was like I was kind of returning to the start of where everything had begun for me. So it felt fairly natural. And I've been working at agencies now, advertising agencies, for the last 6 or 7 years.
Very, very cool. Now, do you find a difference between doing creative copywriting for a business versus doing it for a nonprofit organization?
Truthfully, nonprofit organizations usually give you a little bit more rope in terms of, where you can go creatively. They're more willing to take chances, I think, because they often don't have a lot of money, so they don't have a lot of say in terms of what you create. Whereas when you're writing for a company that, is more hiring you, or, more protective perhaps of their image or their brand, it becomes very tough. There's a lot of multiple stakeholders that all have an opinion about the creative, and some of my favorite work that I've done has been with nonprofits, actually.
Now, having worked for the horror magazine Rue Morgue, what are your top 5 favorite horror movies?
Oh, I'm a sucker for the classics. The Thing, The Exorcist, The Shining, Psycho, and struggling with number 5 here. The one that popped into my head is actually, it's not a classic, but it's a Canadian movie called Pin. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out.
I'll definitely have to check it out then. Now, how did Jet Set Satellite get asked to record Baby Fuel Your Jets, of course, a re-recording of Baby Cool Your Jets, for the unofficial theme song of the Winnipeg Jets?
Somebody had a contact to whoever the music producer was for the team's kind of on game day production, and someone floated the idea, but of course, Cool Your Jets didn't make sense because it sounds like you're dampening down their efforts, right? So I think their tagline for that particular season was fueled by passion, and so I don't know how it came about, but somebody threw out Baby Fuel Your Jets. Would we be interested in doing something like that? And I mean, to be honest, it's a little bit cheesy, but I've been a lifelong Jets fan. Even when I moved to Toronto for a few years, I never cheered for the Leafs. I was always cheering for the Jets after the team came back to the city, which was something I didn't expect. I'm really glad that Winnipeg got their team back. So I was happy to try and be a part of that, I guess, but we didn't have the resources to go back into the studio and do it as properly as we probably would have liked. So they played it for a little while, and I don't think they much use it anymore.
Now, how are your cats, Freddie and Rosie, doing?
They're good. Living the dream, the cat dream. Yeah, they're good. They're both rescues. They're brother and sister. And they're a going concern for sure.
Now, why was the Christmas song Gift not included on The Sounds of Christmas?
Gift?
Mm-hmm. Unreleased song from 1997?
Yeah, holy, you're like blowing my mind here. That's a good question. We never thought of it. That's interesting. That was like a song that originated from... it was like a Christmas gift exchange that we had when I was in college, and I didn't really know what to get this person, and so I wrote them a song, and we recorded it, and it was originally in the collection of songs that we considered for Blueprint, but it didn't end up on the album. But that's deep. That's like, yeah. I don't know if you're a Nardwuar fan, but that's like a Nardwuar question. Like,
now the track "Betrayed," I know your label really wanted you to record. It was very Creed, Linkin Park sounding, and you were against it, which I understand. Now, who wrote the track? Because Jet Set Satellite didn't write the track, correct?
no, it was two professional songwriters or fledgling professional songwriters that were working in the Vancouver area. Their names escape me. I don't know who they were, but I guess they were the flavor du jour, I guess, for our record company, certainly, and maybe for some in the music industry. But yeah, that track didn't interest us in the slightest.
Fair enough. Now, will there be another Jet Set Satellite Halloween haunt down the road? I guess not this Halloween, obviously, but...
Not this one. I guess never say never. We played a show back in 2018, which had been 10 years since we played a show previously. I feel like the possibility of us playing is maybe even fainter than it has ever been. I think that was kind of a test of like whether would we do something beyond that, and I don't know. It went off fairly well, but I don't know. My gut instinct is that band has just kind of run its course. We've all moved on to other things, and not to say that you won't hear music from our camp in the future, but I just don't think it will be in that configuration.
Fair enough. Now, did your band Far Gone record any material?
Again, going back, yes, we did. We had a cassette called Scraps, and we had a CD called Downstream. So two, full-length albums, and we were working on a third that never got released, but an early version of Baby Cool Your Jets was on that third album.
All right. Now, Blueprint in Vegas had hidden bonus track. Why was there not a hidden track on End of an Era, or did you guys consider doing that?
We did. Candidly, Among the Living is a song that we just didn't feel like we got right on Vegas. Everybody that would hear it live would say, wow, I get that song now. It was, and we kind of had, demoitis, what they call it in the industry, with that song, where the demo was so good that we probably, if we had recorded it just maybe a little bit better, we would have put that out as the actual track, because the guitar tone that we got on that was absolutely crushing. Dave stacked a pile of guitars, and it was just like, it was like more Rob Zombie-ish kind of, in terms of just this relentless guitar force. And we didn't really capture that when we included the version on Vegas, and so we tried re-recording it again, and we were going to include it as a hidden track on End of an Era. And the guys worked really hard on it, and we retracked everything, and it was definitely closer to the vision, but something about it coming in after The Mark, which is the actual last song on End of an Era, just felt like, I don't know, it didn't feel like the right note to leave people off on, whereas The Mark did. It felt more poignant to have The Mark kind of ring out and be the end of the album, so we opted to leave it off.
Now, did you hear any feedback from the Black Sabbath camp of your cover of Children of the Grave?
We did not. That would have been cool. It was pretty great, like licensing that, going through the necessary documentation to actually include that on the album, and being able to see, J. Osborne, G. Butler, F. Iommi, because he goes by Frank, I think officially, and B. Ward on the actual songwriters list there when you're filling out the paperwork. I was like, God, this is so crazy. And then years later at the magazine, when I was working at Rue Morgue, I got to interview Tony Iommi, which was killer. I should have probably told him that I recorded Children of the Grave, but I didn't.
Now, there was talks of a video for The Night Went Too Far. There was supposed to be a video for it. Now, why didn't this happen?
Yeah, we really liked a treatment that we saw too. There was a director that had prepared a treatment for that song, and Dave and I, my main songwriter in the band, Dave Swazicki, were really amped up for it, and we thought it was a great choice for third single. But the record label in the 11th hour decided to they wanted to try something different. They felt like Best Way to Die and Baby Cool Your Jets were of a certain style, and that the band was maybe had more, that album had more depth to it sonically than what those two songs indicated, even though they'd both done exceptionally well. and that Night It Went Too Far would have been more of the same, and so they opted to release Lies by the Thousands to radio, which we were directly opposed to. That song was never meant to be a radio song. It was more of just like an introduction to the album. Definitely wouldn't have thought of that as a single in any respect. And they didn't end up making a video for it either. And it got very little traction at radio and was more or less the kind of end of that promotional campaign.
Now, you worked with Jared Leto on Suicide Squad. Jared is also in the band 30 Seconds to Mars, of course. Did you ever tell him about your band Jet Set Satellite when you guys worked together?
I didn't, but I did see 30 Seconds to Mars open for Audio Slave here in Winnipeg a number of years ago, and they were walking through the concourse, and I caught his, he saw me, and we looked at each other for a second, and I saw it. I got lost in his gaze, and I was like, I'm a straight man, but I was like, God damn, that's a handsome man. Yeah, he was pretty crazy on the set of Suicide Squad. He stayed in character as the Joker the entire time, and did not break character. I talked to him on a couple of occasions. He talked to me as the Joker, and he was gifting his co-stars like Margot Robbie and Will Smith. I think he gave Margot Robbie like a dead rat, and he had my department, which is the locations department, set up a tent for him just off of set. He was like doing experiments, or I don't know, getting into character with like dead pig and goat carcasses and stuff like that. It was pretty offside. Yeah, I think he's vegan too, which is really weird.
Now, any chance of a possible Jet Set Satellite vinyl reissues, as there's never been any Jet Set Satellite albums on vinyl before?
That's a very timely question. Last week, I actually inquired about that kind of thing. A friend of mine who owns a record store called Planet of Sound here in Winnipeg ended up having a connection to our old label network. And I spoke to them about giving us permission to release Blueprint on vinyl, and much to my surprise, they gave us their blessing and gave us the legal waivers to do it. It's all on us to produce, which I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm just kind of starting on that journey. That's my winter project, is to plan the reissue of Blueprint on vinyl. So I guess, I don't know, we might have a 23rd anniversary edition.
And that would be killer.
Yeah. Pretty fun.
Now, can we expect physical releases of Ashes to Ashes, the demos, Volume 1, 2, Hook Lab, and Prohibited Audio, or the Christmas release maybe down the road, like hard copies?
Nothing's planned. I guess, again, I'll say never say never. It's just always kind of goes by, how well they're received. Hook Lab was something that was, I was working with another songwriter, Norman Ornstein, for a number of years, and we were writing stuff. I think we really liked working together, and we were trying to solicit TV and film opportunities, which we did receive, although a lot of them turned into opportunities for Jet Set Satellite in sort of a related kind of way, I guess. I would say, once the relationship was there, I would send them more, and I think we ended up placing more Jet Set stuff than we did Hook Lab stuff. But the genesis of Hook Lab was to even the name was just to kind of keep writing in the styles that we were kind of accustomed to, but like unbound by making albums or anything, and just shopping them around just to see if we could get anything in TV and movies and video games and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. I'm proud of those songs, but they didn't really do a ton. It was just but it was certainly a nice outlet for me, getting back into songwriting. Prohibited Audio was almost like an appetizer for what's going on now. Mike Keller, who's the guitar player in Jet Set Satellite, the lead guitarist, him and I have been writing some songs, and we're definitely going to announce, I think sooner than later, that we have another band going, and we have an album planned for sure. So that I can guarantee we'll have a physical release.
Very, very cool. Now, you have a bunch of unreleased tracks and movies along with the Hook Lab songs for licensing, where, of course, Black Match and I Walk Alone have been used in the movie The Door. Would you ever consider releasing maybe a soundtrack compilation of unreleased tracks that have made it to soundtracks and movies?
I guess it's possible. I don't know. We've been pretty fortunate over the years going back to the Jet Set stuff, to have quite a few placements. You know, and I see fan videos on YouTube sometimes and stuff like that with, you know, people have cut different clips of songs to our, or different clips of movies and TV shows to our music and stuff, and it's really flattering. I mean, I love that. I'm a huge TV and film fan, obviously, so when someone gets inspired to do something like that, I'm very flattered. But I hadn't thought of a compilation, to be honest.
Now, was it easy to get permission to use the clip from Hot Rock with Robert Redford for the intro to End of an Era?
That was one of the cases where it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, I think. I was actually asleep when I heard that for the first time. I was asleep on the couch and I kind of woke up without waking up. You know, I was kind of in between sleep and waking up. My eyes were still closed, and there was a movie on TV, and I heard that part that we used as the intro to End of an Era, that scene, which is there's an old woman who's a hypnotist. Basically, the movie is sort of a crime caper. It's a bank heist caper with Robert Redford, and they're trying to figure out how to get around this one element of a security guard or something, and they hire a hypnotist named Miasmo, and she hypnotizes this guy in an elevator, and that's why she says, "Look at the lights," you know, and then she's talking about the lights on the numbers in the elevator. But with my eyes closed, I kind of took that whole scene. I probably wouldn't have thought of anything of it if I was actually watching the movie properly. But with my eyes closed, I imagined the scene in a different way, and you know, just this. It sounded like something that would be a great introduction for an album. And I had to track down. I can't even remember how I found it. I'm sure I was probably Googling or something, but I eventually found out with the little scraps of information that I had what that was. And I happened into a used bookstore and found the movie on DVD. And I pitched it to the guys. I said, I think I've got the right thing to open this album, and they all went along with it. So
now, before Ashes to Ashes 2 was released, there was supposed to be Lies by a Thousand in French supposed to be on it. Now, why did that get scrapped?
That's a good question. I have a feeling that we probably couldn't find it, or the version that we had was corrupt or something. We have quite a bit of archives. There was a time when we were just like demoing stuff like every day. Like Dave was still living at home, and I was over there all the time. His parents saw me more than probably some of Dave's brothers. I don't know where that ended up. It did play in Quebec during the Blueprint album promotion, but it was called. Actually, I don't even remember what it was called. But anyways, it was an interesting experiment. We had recorded the album in Montreal, and so it felt like a cool thing to do.
Awesome. Now, a bunch more unreleased tracks you guys have. The Difference Between Us, Man with a Plan, Homebound, A Song for the Disenchanted, Lost on You, In the Arms of the Old Moon, and Broken Circle. Would these ever be released down the road?
How do you know about these? I actually don't even know how you know about these. That's crazy. Would they be released? Probably not. I mean, I think we revisited everything when we put out those two Ashes releases, and you know, I mean, part of it was like just like the band started out as sort of a solo project for me, and then, you know, Dave's creative input ended up being to the extent that it just didn't feel like a solo project anymore. But it was still like the two of us kind of in that very beginning stage, and we were, you know, song like Broken Circle, and what were some of the other ones you mentioned? Lost on You.
In the Arms of the Old Moon, Lost on You.
Yeah, those were like very, very
Homebound.
Early songs from me that, you know, just didn't really fit in as the band took shape. I mean, I definitely had a different idea of what the band would be in the beginning, and it shifted quite a bit to something else. And then I think just as we continued to grow and develop as a band and evolve into what eventually became Jet Set Satellite on End of an Era, it felt weird to kind of present that stuff under the banner of the band anymore, because it was just so far removed from where we were at.
Awesome. Well, that's it. Thank you very much for your time. That was a lot of fun.
I don't know how you got that information. I really don't. I don't know. Did I give that to you at some point? Maybe I did.
No.
I don't know how else you would. I don't even know how you would get that. You hacked my computer or something?
I did, yes.
Yeah. That's so crazy. You're freaking me out right now.